Miss Media. Good evening all and welcome. Tonight we're going to be heading into dark territory with a collection of demon stories. And please, if you are a patron or plan on being so soon and have your birthday over the summer, send me when your birthday is and the topic of your choice, because I am coming to a close soon with my pre-recording. So if you don't send it in quick, you're going to miss out. But with that being said, it's time to get comfortable and let the darkness take control. It all started because our school was right next to the old graveyard. In our culture, you can't be disrespectful to the graves of those who have passed, or they will come after you and your family to get back at you. As kids, we would walk over them without knowing we were bothering those meant to be resting. It all began suddenly. My younger cousin saw something in her father's room when she was about 3 to 5 years old. She said it was a man. Then one cold winter night near the school, she suddenly began crying, saying she heard people crying and screaming at her. It was scary, especially since her older siblings and I couldn't hear anything. We had to rush her back home completely shaken. Another time, her father, my uncle, left us alone at her mom's house while he went to pick up an old TV from my grandparents. While he was gone, we heard chains dragging and heavy breathing. It all stopped the moment we saw him walk past the window. Then there was a time my dad felt a hard push while he was home alone doing laundry. Around that time, I was younger and talked about a man in the closet in my sister's room. Things stayed calm for a bit until about a year later. My cousin and I were playing in front of the church when we suddenly started crying. We both heard someone crying, even though no one else was around. Later, my family moved because of the scary events. After 2 years, we returned to my hometown. Things seemed quiet except for a few loud slamming doors and nights of sleep paralysis. But things got worse when we moved again to the city where we live now. One night, my mom woke up to hear a woman calling out the name Lisa, but Lisa isn't her name. When we searched the house, no one was there. My little brother suddenly became very religious and said he felt scared all the time, but we never knew why. Then one day my sister and dad both heard a woman say, "Hi," from the laundry room. No one was inside. After that, my sister began to have terrifying sleep paralysis. She saw a demon-like woman drooling on her face, and she'd wake up sitting straight up, actually feeling the drool on her head. Then came the night she saw it clearly. She was walking to the bathroom and saw it standing in the hallway, just staring. A full dark figure. Even with the hallway light on, she froze in fear and then ran back to her room. After that, things started getting worse. I saw it too. Just barely out of the side of my eye. In my room, the hallway, the kitchen, even the stairs. It was everywhere. Just about 30 minutes to an hour ago, I heard it humming and moving inside my closet. The humming lasted about 5 seconds, stopping for a few moments between the sounds. What's strange is that it started as a man's figure, but now it seems like a woman. Even my baby cousin started seeing it. He mentioned the man in my uncle's room at my grandparents' place and now won't go there anymore. I'm honestly scared of whatever this demon thing is, and I don't know how to get rid of it or protect my family. Before I say anything, I need you to know that even though I have a mental illness, I've never had hallucinations. If what I saw really was a hallucination, then it would be the only time in my entire life, which just seems really unlikely. So I once spent some time in a psych ward. It's not something I like to think about, but there's one moment from that time that still sticks with me, and I want to share it. While I was there, I made a friend. He was a great guy. Funny, real, and it's important to say that he was black. He was about 35 and had these deep brown eyes like strong coffee. I'm saying this because it matters later in the story. One day we were in group therapy. The room was quiet, and we were listening to the therapist talk about, I can't really remember what exactly, probably something about coping or getting better. That's when I noticed my friend shaking. At first, I didn't think much of it. In that place, people twitch, pace, or mumble all the time. But then I looked closely at him. He wasn't just twitching. He was shaking like something was running through him, like electricity. His whole body looked like it was vibrating. And then suddenly his eyes were no longer brown. They were yellow. Not kind of yellow. Bright, strange yellow. Like headlights in thick fog. I watched, frozen with fear, my heart beating fast. I looked around the room expecting someone else to notice or say something, but no one did. The therapist kept talking like nothing weird was happening. No one even looked at him. After about 10 seconds, the shaking stopped. He let out a deep breath, slouched, and his eyes turned back to brown. Just like that, it was done. He didn't say anything, and I didn't either. We never talked about it. I never saw anything like that from him again. But I swear on everything real. For a few seconds, those eyes were not human. And I still don't know why or how I was the only one who saw it. Even now, years later, when I think about it, I still feel shaken. I wonder if what I saw was him getting possessed by something, even if just for a moment. What do you all think? I have a friend who shared this story with me. He's from Mexico. It's about his uncle and a friend who ended up in a really scary situation. Years ago in the state of Oaxaca, my friend's uncle and his friend were driving home late at night on a highway. They were in one of those old flatbed trucks used to carry fruits and vegetables. They were farmers like most people were back then. Oaxaca was still very rural and had only just gotten a proper concrete highway. While they were driving, the uncle saw something in the rearview mirror. He said it looked like a horse about 150 feet behind them. He couldn't see its features clearly and didn't think much of it. After a while, he fell asleep in the passenger seat. But while sleeping, he had a quick nightmare. A horse with large black eyes ran up to his side of the truck and woke him up fast. He sat up and looked around and saw his friend, who was now driving, with a terrified face. He was going about 50 miles per hour, which was fast for a truck like that. He asked, "Why are you driving so fast?" His friend said they had been followed for the last few miles. That same horse in the mirror was getting closer and closer. That's when the fear really kicked in. They both felt a deep fear and sped up, hitting about 65, trying to escape. But the sound of hooves on the road kept getting louder. The driver told the uncle not to turn around or look at it. He said the horse seemed to move faster whenever they looked at it, so the uncle closed his eyes and just listened. But when the hooves sounded too close, he glanced at the window beside him. And there it was. The horse was running beside them, its giant black eyes locked on the driver. The uncle yelled at his friend not to look, just to keep his eyes on the road. But the horse kept running next to the truck, staring at the driver. Finally, the driver gave in and took a quick look at it. As soon as he did, he started crying, totally overwhelmed with fear and emotion. Then the horse began to slow down. The uncle looked in the rearview mirror again. What he saw next scared him badly. The horse was standing in the road, floating above the ground. It had no legs, just floating there, staring at them with its huge dark eyes. When they got home, they told the driver's father, my friend's grandfather, what had happened. The old man told them the highway was built right through sacred Nahuatl land. They were lucky, he said, to have passed it at night because everyone believes the area is salado, or cursed, full of bad energy, and people feared the demon horse still lurked there. Be careful when driving on the highways of Mexico, and always watch out for demon horses. I live in central North Carolina, about an hour from a place called the Devil's Trampling Ground. A little about it, it's a large circle in the woods where nothing grows. People say it's where the devil walks at night, thinking up his evil plans, and that's why nothing grows there. If you stay the night inside that circle, strange and unexplainable things might happen to you, like waking up outside the circle or seeing and hearing strange things. I'm 30 years old now, but when I was 18, some friends and I thought it would be a cool idea to go there at midnight one night. The GPS will take you to the gate, but you still have to walk deep into the woods to find the circle. We only had one flashlight for all of us. The walk through the woods was really scary. We finally found the circle, and sure enough, it was just a round patch of dirt where nothing was growing, right in the middle of the forest. We stayed for about 15 minutes and heard some animals, but nothing really crazy happened. We decided to head back, but as soon as we got to the car, it felt like something was watching us. It's hard to explain, just that strong feeling of being stared at. My friend was driving, I was in the front seat, and two friends were in the back. We drove for about 5 minutes and stopped at a four-way intersection. There was a street light giving off a bit of light near the corner where there was a daycare. Behind the daycare was a swing set with four swings. Three of them were still, but one swing was moving back and forth like someone was on it. It wasn't swinging too gently or wildly. Story 6, I've had sleep paralysis since I was a kid. Over the years, I've been through some really scary things because of it, but the one that happened just a few days ago was the worst so far. I woke up one morning not feeling very good. I was up for a few hours and still didn't feel better, so I went back to bed, hoping a nap would help. I lay down on my side, facing away from our bedroom door. I quickly relaxed and fell asleep. The next thing I remember is my eyes slowly opening. I could see our bedroom wall and the closed bathroom door. I tried to move, but I couldn't. Since I've had sleep paralysis many times, I already knew what was happening. I told myself to stay calm and try to move something small, like a finger. But I was already scared, and I could feel my heart beating fast. Then I heard our bedroom door open and close behind me. Our door makes a loud popping sound when it moves, so I knew it had really opened. At first, I thought it was my husband coming to check on me, and I felt a little hope that he could help me snap out of this. But that feeling disappeared quickly. I heard loud footsteps running fast around the bed. They stopped right in front of me. That's when I saw a big, tall, black figure standing near the bathroom door. I see this same figure during most of my sleep paralysis episodes. I can never see its face or anything else clearly. Before I could think anything more, the figure jumped on me. I felt its weight press down on me hard, especially on my ribs. I was still on my side with both hands under my pillow, unable to move. I closed my eyes, trying so hard to move, and then I felt it, its teeth sinking into my ribs. It was so painful and intense. Honestly, one of the worst feelings I've ever had. I felt the thing's mouth biting over and over in different spots along the side of my ribs. I was trying to scream and get away, but I couldn't move or breathe. I had no air in my lungs and couldn't make a sound. In my head, I was screaming, begging to wake up. Then suddenly I sat straight up in bed. My heart was racing, and I was drenched in cold sweat. I looked around the room. No one was there. I lifted my shirt and checked my ribs. The skin wasn't broken, but the left side of my ribs was bright red. I've read a lot about sleep paralysis. I understand the scientific reasons behind it, but this was the first time I woke up with a mark. That was new. Now every night I feel so anxious when it's time to sleep. After this, it's hard to believe there's nothing dark or evil behind these attacks. I really think the sleep paralysis demon bit me. Story 7, I believe the house I grew up in was haunted by something dark, maybe evil spirits or even demons. When I was a kid, my little brother and I shared a bunk bed. I slept on the top and he was on the bottom. A few times I fell off the bed, but one time felt really different. I was asleep when suddenly it felt like something yanked me. The next thing I knew, I was hanging off the edge of the bed with just one arm. That woke me up instantly. My brother also had times when he fell out of bed. I also used to wake up with bruises and scratches that I couldn't explain. As I got older, I gave my old room to my brother and moved into the attic part of the house. I regret it because the attic always gave me a creepy feeling, like I wasn't alone. I'd hear weird sounds up there, and I sometimes kept the light on all night because I was just too scared. One night after I went to bed, I suddenly heard 3 knocks on my door coming from the hallway near the bathroom. It scared me so much I woke up in a panic. Another time, I had a nightmare that I was in hell. It was so terrifying that I woke up and didn't want to sleep again. But every time I did fall asleep, the same dream would start again. This happened 3 nights in a row. I think it started after I put a dream catcher under my pillow. Luckily, the nightmares eventually stopped. I also had one dream that felt super real, like a succubus had taken over. It felt so real that I still remember it clearly. Then there were a few nights when my bed would shake just slightly, like a small vibration, similar to a tiny earthquake. But where I live, that never happens. I also hated taking showers in that house because I always felt like something was standing nearby watching me. One of the weirdest things was how the shampoo bottle kept falling on my feet. It hurt, and there was never a good reason for it to fall like that. But it happened again and again. There were nights I slept in the living room instead because my acid reflux was acting up, and my dog would come with me. But late at night, out of nowhere, he would start barking like crazy. Every time I checked, there was nothing there. It was hard to get him to calm down afterward. Looking back now, I think maybe there was a poltergeist in that house. One time I had left my Bluetooth speaker playing music and fell asleep, but the next morning, it didn't work anymore. When I looked at it, I saw the battery had melted. There was even a hole in the back where it had burned through. Thankfully, I've moved to a new house now, and ever since then, I haven't had any weird or scary experiences like that. I'm really thankful for that. Story 8. This happened a few years ago. At the time, I was living with my family in an old beat-up house. My mom's boyfriend was staying with us, and he was going through what seemed like a mental breakdown. When he didn't have anything to smoke, he'd act kind of crazy and talk about ghosts, gods, and demons. Around that time, he was saying a lot of strange things, like how there was a demon in the house and how it was trying to get inside him. I'm telling you this part so you can understand how scared I really was during that time. One night, I was in the living room watching TV. My mom was working, so I was home alone with her boyfriend. Eventually, I fell asleep on the couch, which was right next to a big window. The house was in bad shape, and we had blinds covering the windows. But the spot where my head was didn't have blinds because of the AC unit. I woke up around 2 or 3 in the morning, kind of dazed and confused. Like most people do when they first wake up, I looked outside to figure out what time it was. That's when I saw him. There was a little boy standing outside my window. He was dressed in a baseball uniform. His face was pale, and his eyes looked completely empty. I can't explain it exactly. His eyes didn't look alive, but also didn't look dead. He looked like he had no thoughts, just sadness. I was frozen in fear. I couldn't move at all. I was so terrified seeing this figure right outside the window. Suddenly, my mom's boyfriend walked into the room. He leaned down and whispered something that made my blood run cold. He said, "You see him too?" I was already scared, but that made it so much worse. Then he walked up to the window, pulled up the blinds, and started talking to the boy. After a little while, I saw the boy walk away. I looked away for just a second, and when I looked back, he was gone. I brought it up again after we moved out of that house, but my mom's boyfriend acted like it never happened. I feel kind of dumb even talking about it, but I know I didn't imagine it because he saw the boy too. He'd been acting strange the whole weekend, talking about demons and such. So now I wonder, was that little boy the demon he was talking about? Story 9. My family comes from a small town in East Tennessee. My dad's side was mostly normal. They were poor hillbillies who worked on tobacco farms. But my mom's side of the family seemed like a total mess from what I've been told. My grandpa used to take my mom and aunt to bars, leaving them in the car while he drank and chased women. He used to beat my grandma and insult her in front of the kids. My mom's family was part white European and part Native American. My aunt, grandma, and grandpa had black hair, but my mom had lighter hair and freckles. My grandpa used to call her a bastard and said my aunt was the pretty one. My mom once told me that her dad brought home a drunk guy from the bar, and that man molested her younger sister while forcing my mom to watch. So my mom had every reason to run away. During her first year of high school, she met my dad at a church event. The preacher's name was Gene. My parents started talking, but they weren't allowed to date. One night my grandpa came home drunk and beat my mom. My dad ran off with her, and they eventually got married. After that, they kept following Jean as he moved from church to church. Jean was passionate when he preached. He'd yell, growl, sweat, and go on for hours. My sister was born a year after my parents got married, and I was born 9 years later. From a young age, both of us were raised in the church. Women weren't allowed to cut their hair, wear makeup, or pants. It was the usual Southern Baptist stuff. But then things started to feel strange. There was something they called getting happy. During services, people would scream, cry, and speak in tongues. Jean would crawl around and yell. Others would join in speaking tongues, while someone else translated. At first, it just seemed weird, but then I started seeing things that scared me. My sister once told me that before I was born, my dad said demons were after him. One night, he woke up everyone and said they had to leave, or they'd die. On the way out of the hollow where they lived, their dog walked into the road and stood on two legs. My dad hit it with the car while crying and saying he saw things in the trees. They picked up my aunt and drove to Jean's place, where he said a prayer to stop the demons. My sister also said my mom used to go into the woods and pray at altars she made. I saw her go into wild rages and then forget everything later. I never wanted to get saved. Something always felt off. During intense sermons, I'd go to the basement bathroom and pray for God to take me away from it all. Two events really stuck with me. The first happened when I was about 3 or 4. The church was praying over someone. I was sitting in the back. Suddenly, the room got freezing cold and I heard a loud growl. Everyone stopped praying at once and sat down silently. Then we just went home. The second time was when I was a teenager. We went to a revival in the middle of nowhere. The church was very hot. The preacher went into one of his wild moments, and people were screaming. I prayed and asked to leave. The back door opened by itself. I got up and walked out. No one stopped me. My parents didn't even come out until it was over. I once dreamed I was in that church again. The lights turned amber, and John told everyone to follow him. They went into the woods and climbed down a well. I heard hell inside it. Strange animals would always come to the church too. At the time, I didn't think much of it, but now I do. A bear once scratched someone's car. Deer wandered around the lot. I moved out as a teen. My mom hit me and screamed when I left. I never went back. My sister still goes to church, but it's a modern mega church now. Nothing like the one we grew up in. As an adult looking back, I truly believe there was something evil about that church and about Jean. He died a few years ago, but I can't forget how he seemed taken over by something. I really believe something was deeply wrong with that place. Story 10. This story isn't about me. It's about one of my cousin's sisters. In southern India, where I'm from, we have many old customs and rituals. One of them is about people getting possessed by gods and speaking as their messengers. That's what we think happened here. We had gone to watch a movie where the hero gets possessed by a god and protects his land from evil forces. The movie was called Kanara. After seeing it, we started pretending to act like the hero in the movie when he was possessed. Then a few days later, something really strange happened. Our moms came home from work earlier than usual, and one of them looked really serious. We asked what happened, and she told us this story. Our cousin Samara didn't go to college that day because she had a really bad sore throat and felt sick. So her mom stayed home to take care of her. Her dad didn't have work that day either. While they were getting ready to take her to the hospital, Samara's mom stepped outside to take a phone call. Suddenly, Samara started screaming loudly. Her parents rushed in and saw she didn't look normal. She looked stiff and upset. Then she started moving strangely, almost floating and jumping slightly off the ground. Her dad is a strong man, but even he couldn't hold her down. She screamed so loud the neighbors came over. She began chanting in a language none of us knew, and everyone started crying and panicking. They took her to the hospital, but the doctors didn't know what was wrong. One of them even said they needed to see a psychic instead. The family gathered, and luckily one of our cousins knew someone who could help, even though he lived far away. He came because Samara is a young girl, and he didn't want her to suffer. He started doing some kind of ritual, throwing salt around, and finally Samara calmed down. When she woke up, she said, "I could see everyone and knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what I was doing." She could barely speak and looked like she had been frozen. Thankfully, she's okay now. But I still wonder, was she really possessed by a demon? Because it didn't seem holy at all. Story 11. Tonight I stayed over at my friend's apartment. She lives alone in a penthouse, the very last apartment on top of the building. The walls are high, made of old wooden plaster, and the whole place has this quiet, echoing stillness that always felt a little strange. We were sitting in her living room for hours just talking about life. The talk slowly turned to religion. I believe deeply, so I started sharing what I think about Jesus, faith, and the spiritual world being real. As we went deeper into that talk, we started discussing demons and how important it is to protect yourself spiritually. By now it was past midnight. In her living room, there's a tall bookshelf filled with books. We were sitting on the couch about 2 meters away from it when I began feeling something weird, like the air in the room changed. It got heavier, and then it happened. Out of nowhere, a book from the top shelf just dropped and hit the floor loudly. It made both of us jump. The timing was scary. It happened right when we were talking about demons, Jesus, and our Savior. She turned white and looked at the book. I tried to stay calm and told her, "See, this is what happens when you talk about them. They don't like it and try to scare you." But deep down, I was scared too. I just didn't want to show it. I didn't want any evil thing to feel my fear. I left the book where it fell and acted like nothing happened, trying to keep talking and not focus on the fear. But then at 1:20, another book fell. This time it felt like it was done on purpose, like something was reacting. That was too much. I stood up and shouted, "In the name of Jesus, I rebuke you. You're not welcome here. Leave this house now." My friend was shaking. She ran to the restroom to wash her face, almost in tears. After that, we stopped all spiritual talk, and she begged me not to leave her. So now I'm stuck in her apartment writing this. How do we deal with this? Will it stop? Should we pray? Is this place haunted or filled with something evil? Has anyone else gone through something like this? I'd really appreciate any advice. Story 12, I'll begin by saying I'm 19 years old now, and this all happened when I was around 7 or 8. I'm not religious at all. I'm the kind of person who needs to see something to believe it. When people tell stories, I usually try to explain them in a logical way. But what happened to me really shook me, and I don't talk about it much because I still get emotional just thinking about it. As a kid, I didn't like scary stuff. Not horror movies, not ghost stories, none of it. I was scared of the dark, and bedtime was always hard. My mom would have to stay in my room until I fell asleep before she could go to her own room. After I'd fall asleep, I'd always wake up around 2 a.m. and feel scared to be alone. So I'd walk down the hallway to my mom's room and sleep in her bed. The only people living in the house then were me, my mom, and my older sister. The first thing happened one night when I woke up again and walked to my mom's room. When I opened her door, I saw something. A very pale, short, bald man sitting in the middle of her bed. I froze in fear and just stared at him, trying to understand what I was seeing. Then he lifted his head and looked at me, but his face had no features, no eyes, no mouth, nothing. Just a smooth white face. The second he looked at me, I collapsed and started screaming and crying. My mom jumped out of bed and ran to me, trying to calm me down. I kept saying there was a man in the room, but she just told me I had a bad dream and needed to go back to bed. I looked around the room to show her, but the man was gone. After I calmed down, I asked if my cousin could sleep in my room with me that night because I was too scared to sleep alone or in her room. The next morning, I tried to explain to my mom again what I saw, but she didn't want to talk about it. She said it was just a dream. I was so sure about what I saw, so I told my sister too, but she didn't believe me either. After that, I was terrified it might happen again. Every night was awful. My mom would tuck me in like usual, but I started pretending to be asleep. As soon as she left, I'd turn on all the lights in my room and play with my toys or PlayStation until morning. I took naps during the day on the couch, but my mom didn't like it. She wanted me to be active during the day so I'd sleep better at night. This meant I barely got any sleep because I was too afraid at night, and my mom wouldn't let me rest during the day. After 2 to 3 weeks, I started to think maybe my mom was right, and maybe it was just a dream. One day I was really tired and fell asleep on the couch. I woke up in the middle of the night in a pitch black room and began to panic. My room always had nightlights, so I wasn't used to total darkness. I got up and tried to use the small light on the TV to help me find my way to my room. It was the first room in the hallway from the living room. When I opened my bedroom door, the man was sitting on the edge of my bed. As scared as I was, I quietly closed the door, hoping he didn't notice me, and ran to my mom's room crying, screaming that he was in my room again. She got up, went with me, but once again, he was gone. I was so confused. I started to question what was real. I told my mom I wanted to live with my dad because I was too scared to stay. After talking to him and explaining everything, he agreed, and I moved in with him. But even he didn't believe me. He thought I had watched something scary and had nightmares. Years later, my mom married a man who had 3 kids. The youngest was 6. After they stayed in the house a while, that youngest boy started saying things that were exactly like what I experienced. When my mom told me, I wanted to say, "I told you so," but by that time she believed me and sold the house soon after. Now we just call that place the haunted house. I still struggle to talk about it in person. My eyes fill with tears when I even think about it. But by that time she believed me and sold the house soon after. Now we just call that place the haunted house. I still struggle to talk about it in person. My eyes fill with tears when I even think about it. But I'm just so grateful I don't have to go near that house again. I was haunted and scared for months, and I'll never forget it. Story 13. When I was 19, I went to Argentina to serve a Mormon mission. While I was there, a few creepy things happened that still scare me to this day. First, there was a group or religion there with a name I don't fully remember. It's not the same as the Brazilian religion with a similar name. You won't find much about them online, and maybe I'm just remembering the name wrong. What I do remember is that they believed in things very similar to Mormonism, just darker and scarier. From the people I met, I learned that they believed in a satanic version of the Trinity. They did baptisms in blood, and they believed men could have holy power, like a priesthood, but it was tied to demons. My first scary experience was with a woman who was dating a man in this group, and he was trying to get her to join. She started feeling watched in her home, hearing strange sounds, and said she felt something sit on her head more than once. She wanted to get away from it and asked us to bless her home. We went with another missionary and a local leader. The house was small. We sat in the front room. From where I sat, I could see straight into the kitchen and the back door. At first, we were just chatting, but something didn't feel right the whole time. As we talked more about her strange experiences and religion, strange things started happening. We first heard small tapping on the walls. The house was made of bricks and cement. Then the back door started shaking and a broom fell. The tapping turned into scratching sounds all over the walls above our heads. We acted like we didn't notice and kept going. But the room got darker and heavier, like the air itself was getting thicker. We finally knelt to pray. While we prayed, the scratching, the heaviness, and the noises got worse. But when we finished the prayer, it was like something popped. The air lightened, all the noises stopped, and everything felt normal for the first time since we arrived. The second experience was while walking around knocking on doors, though in Argentina, we clapped loudly instead. Around midday, we clapped at a house, and a woman stumbled out of a side house. She said it was her boyfriend's house and she didn't know how she got there. She said this kept happening. She would fall asleep at her place and wake up here. Her boyfriend was part of the same group. She said he had a circle in the room where he did animal sacrifices. She also told us her kids were taken away because she was found on a highway trying to get hit by a car, though she says it wasn't really her. I thought maybe she was using drugs or alcohol, but she kept talking. We moved into religious talk, and she told us she had dreams where she was underwater with Lucifer, and his demons would do horrible things to her. When we brought up Jesus, she changed completely. She looked down, her voice got deep, and she told us to leave her alone. Just minutes before, she had been begging us for help. If we changed the topic, she went back to normal. But anytime we said anything about Jesus or religion, she changed again. We could feel something evil there. I even got on her level, looked her in the eyes and said, "Look into my eyes and see the light of Christ, and you'll be healed." She called me a liar. We were both scared and agreed silently to leave. We gave her a pamphlet and left. When I shook her hand goodbye, I felt all my strength drain away. I became numb like I was on autopilot. My companion said the same thing happened to him. We turned the corner, sat on the sidewalk, and didn't talk for hours. We were too tired and shocked to even speak. Later, we called our mission president and were told to cross that street off the map and warn future missionaries to stay away. Other strange things happened too. One woman thought her house was haunted. We prayed and a cat popped out. There was another girl we taught who played with a Ouija board, and it seemed like one of her friends ended up possessed. Story 14, I had sleep paralysis once a few months back, and I still think about it sometimes. I was home from college lying in bed when I woke up in the middle of the night. I saw the hallway light on, which was strange because I rarely ever use it, so I know I didn't turn it on. Maybe my dad did, but that would be pretty unusual. What really scared me was that there was a pale woman standing at the corner of the hallway. She had shoulder-length, straight black hair and wore a black and white polka dot dress. She just stood there, smiling at me. It wasn't an angry or evil smile. It actually seemed a bit real, but it still made me feel weird, like something wasn't right. She didn't move at all. She just stared. The whole thing probably lasted about a minute, until I finally snapped out of it. What scared me most at the time was how helpless I felt and my big fear of someone breaking into the house. But now when I think about it, I don't feel that same fear anymore. I hadn't seen her again until recently. I live in Central Florida, and last week Hurricane Milton came through. There was some flooding nearby, but our house didn't get damaged. I was sleeping on the couch instead of my bed because I get nervous about windows breaking during storms, and my bed is right under one. I woke up while the storm was still going strong. I know I wasn't having sleep paralysis this time because I could move and was petting my scared cat. I looked out our back door, and there she was. The same woman, same dress, same creepy smile. She was standing in the middle of our screened-in patio, just staring again. I looked over to check the lock, then back at her. She still didn't move. After maybe a minute or two, I blinked, and she was gone. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. Maybe it was some kind of spiritual thing, or just my brain reacting to stress. I do believe in spiritual stuff, but I'm not super knowledgeable about it. I just want to understand who she is and why she keeps showing up. It feels like there's a reason, but I don't know what that is. My mom passed away a year and a half ago, but the woman doesn't look like her. I really want to understand why this is happening and who she might be. I don't think she's a typical sleep paralysis demon, or maybe she's something else entirely. I'd really love to know what others think. What exactly is going on here? Story 15, a quick message before I go on. Around 30 years ago, I was accused of something I didn't do. Sexual assault. I've spent nearly 3 decades trying to clear my name, and now I'm finally close. I want to be honest with you. Some people believe in me, and some don't. It's a sensitive topic, but I'm here to tell the truth. My story is real, and some of it has already been told on 2 YouTube documentaries, Retraced Echoes and Rope Paranormal. They even flew me back to Connecticut for the 50th anniversary. Back in 1972, when I was a kid, I was often babysat by Laura and Jerry Gooden at their house at 966 Lindy Street in Bridgeport, Connecticut. My early life was rough. My mom had me at 15 and wasn't able to take care of me properly. After she split from my dad, she got involved with a biker gang. Our home became wild, so she left me more and more with Laura and Jerry. But their house had dark energy of its own. The first weird thing happened almost immediately. Laura was giving me a bath when the bathroom door slammed shut by itself. Then something invisible pushed me underwater. I blacked out. After that, things just got stranger. Their adopted daughter, Marcy, had unusual abilities. I saw toys floating in her room. One time she took me to the basement, and something unseen dragged me down the stairs. A dark shadow showed up and started choking me. From then on, I always felt watched. At first, it was little things, objects moving, whispers, doors creaking. But then it got intense. One day while I was playing, the air felt thick and cold. My breath became visible even though the heat was on. Then a heavy TV moved by itself and smashed to the floor. Laura and Jerry ran in, totally freaked out. Then there was the cat, Sam. At first, he was just a regular cat. But then one day he spoke. I don't mean animal sounds. I mean real words. He said jingle bells. Another time he hissed, "You're all going to die." It was terrifying. Marcy seemed to be at the center of everything. Her presence made the activity worse. One night I saw her sitting on her bed while her stuffed animals floated around her. I couldn't even scream. Then came the basement again. I followed her down, and suddenly I was yanked by something invisible. The second I touched the floor, the air felt heavy, and shadows in the corner began to form into a giant figure. It came at me and started choking me again. My vision went dark, and my body shook. Then, just like before, it let me go. I fell to the floor, gasping. Marcy just stood there watching. Things got so bad the police were called. Jerry was panicking, and when officers showed up, they saw furniture moving on its own. A huge fridge lifted off the ground, a crucifix twisted on the wall. One cop ran straight out of the house. Others tried to explain it away, but they knew what they saw. Later, Ed and Lorraine Warren came and confirmed that something evil was there. But because of all the attention from the media, everything got labeled as fake. Marcy, under pressure, said it was all her fault. But I knew better. Whatever was in that house followed me for years. It stayed with me, feeding off my anger and fear. I almost lost myself and even came close to doing something terrible. But I reached out for help. In 2023, the New England Society for Paranormal Research stepped in. Archbishop Plato Angelicus and Father James did an exorcism. It was intense. Holy water burned my skin, prayers filled the room, and I felt something fighting to stay inside me. My body shook, I growled, and it felt like I was being ripped apart. But after hours of struggle, it finally ended. I felt peace for the first time in years. The evil had let go. Now I'm healing. I have faith again. I want others who are going through things like this to know they are not alone. There's hope and there's help out there. And yes, I've been hearing people talk about the demon too. Story 16. So I've been hearing about this thing called demon face syndrome, and honestly, I thought it was just some silly made-up thing from creepy stories online. But something really weird happened to me just a few minutes ago, and I seriously don't know what to think. I was on Instagram, just scrolling before bed like usual. I stopped on this video of a girl talking about hydrating foods or something like that. Right away, I got a weird feeling about her, like she wasn't being real and was just trying to promote a product like a lot of influencers do. But as I kept watching her, something strange started happening to her face. It changed, very slowly, but it definitely changed. Her eyes got really big and her mouth widened unnaturally. It was so slow at first that I thought maybe I was imagining it, but after a few seconds I realized it wasn't just in my head. She looked totally different, and it freaked me out. I checked the comments to see if anyone else noticed, thinking maybe it was a filter or part of the video, maybe some horror joke or special effect, but no one said a single thing about it. That's when I started to panic a little. I went to check other videos to make sure I wasn't seeing this with everyone. But no, only her face looked like that. Everyone else looked normal. It was really creepy, and I still can't tell if I saw something supernatural or if my brain was just acting up. I've seen a few spiritual people online say that some people have the gift to see through masks, like to spot demons or non-human beings in disguise. I always thought that was nonsense. I usually don't believe in that stuff, but now I'm really confused. What did I just see? Was it all in my head? Or did I just catch a glimpse of something I wasn't supposed to? Was she a demon? This happened around the time when the first Exorcist movie came out. I was about 11 years old. My cousins were staying the night, so there were four of us all together. I was asleep in my bed, and my three boy cousins were sleeping on the floor in my room. The boys had to stay in my room because my sister was sleeping across the hall. My older cousins were always really mean to me when we were kids. They would ask me to come play, and then they'd either hit me, pull a prank, or try to embarrass me. One time they even tried to drown me. But that's another story. That night I suddenly heard a sound like the small crystal pieces on a chandelier jingling. My mom had a few downstairs, so I thought maybe it was that. I woke up and looked around my room. Something didn't feel right. It was way too quiet. Why was everyone else still sleeping? Didn't they hear that sound? Then my bed started to shake. I immediately thought of the movie Carrie, the scene where the girl is being possessed in her bed. I started to panic. I thought the devil was coming to take me. I had to get out of that room fast before something bad happened. But I couldn't step over my cousins who were lying all around. The shaking kept getting stronger. I stood up on my bed, and now it felt like the whole room was shaking. Why was no one else waking up? I didn't care anymore. I jumped across all of them just to get to the door. I landed really close to one of my cousins' heads with a loud thud. As soon as I hit the floor, I ran straight to my mom's room, screaming for help. I kept shouting, knocking on her door over and over. I begged her to open the door, but she didn't. So I sat down outside her room, curled into a ball, and started crying. Pictures were falling off the walls, and now my cousins were finally waking up too. They didn't know what was happening either and started panicking. Eventually, my mom opened the door. She was smiling and laughing at me. Everyone else came to see what was going on and found me still curled up crying. They all started pointing and laughing at me. My sister came and helped me back to my room and gave me some hugs. I've never lived that day down. Turns out it was just an earthquake. A strong one. A magnitude 11, they said. It wasn't a demon coming to get me after all. Just nature shaking things up. Hey guys, it's Mort here, and thank you so much for listening. I swear it's been about 2, maybe longer, since I did a good Demon Stories video. What do you guys think? Give me your thoughts down below. I do enjoy hearing them. And again, if you're a patron and would like your birthday shout out, please let me know when your birthday is, or if you're thinking about it and your birthday's over the summer. That would be great. Thank you. I would like to extend a final thanks to my members and patrons whose names can be seen on screen. If you would like even more cool perks like these amazing peeps, follow the link in the description to find out more. But that's it from me. Stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one. The Night. My name is Chris. This happened years ago, and I honestly forgot about it until just recently. I was 17 that summer, working night shifts at a pizza place far out on the edge of the small town where I grew up. I didn't love the job, but I didn't have any money and my parents would have flipped out if I wasn't working. So I just dealt with it. It was one of those jobs you only take when there's nothing else around. The shifts were slow, the uniforms were always sticky, and I had to use an old delivery car that barely made it up the hills. At least I didn't have to use my own car. That would have been way worse. Oh, and not that it matters much, but the pizza was actually terrible. Like really gross. I still don't understand how anyone would ever order from that place. The only reason we probably even got any business was because of the decent tech and cozy vibe the place had inside. If it weren't for that, I swear we wouldn't have gotten a single call. That pizza place is still probably the thing I miss the least about the town I grew up in, and that's saying a lot. The one good part of working there was how quiet it was most nights. Whether it was the gross pizza or how far we were from downtown, barely anyone placed an order. I won't waste your time talking about how most of my nights went. It's a pizza job, so you can probably picture it just fine. One night I was restocking the drink fridge when our order tablet buzzed. It was for a large sausage and olive pizza. I remember the order because we basically never got requests for olives. The address was way out there, technically outside our delivery range, and I was about to reject it like we usually did for far orders. But before I did, my manager Russell, a guy in his 30s who mostly sat in the back, browsing Reddit, looked over and said I should take it, since we hadn't had a single delivery in more than an hour. I didn't argue. Once the pizza was done, I typed the address into my phone and grabbed the box. At least it would kill a good 30 or 40 minutes. As I was about to head outside and walk to the car, I looked down at the printed instructions Russell had stapled to the pizza box. I hadn't checked them before, but now I read them clearly. They said, and I remember this exactly, park on the street behind the house, walk through the backyard, knock on the back door only. That made me pause for a second, but my 17-year-old brain came up with a few normal reasons someone might ask for that. Maybe they didn't want to wake a sleeping baby or an old grandparent. Maybe their front door was being worked on. Maybe they just didn't want someone in the house to know they were ordering food. Could have been anything. And honestly, I just didn't want to go back inside and fold boxes. So I got in the car and went. The second I stepped out, though, I started feeling unsure. It was one of those summer nights where the air felt thick, hot, and totally still. Like even the wind was stuck. I don't know if you've ever smelled that gross, humid air, kind of sour and plasticky, mixed with dry dirt, but that's exactly what it smelled like. I can't stand that smell, but there was no avoiding it. I had the windows down for about 2 minutes before I gave up and cranked the AC. The delivery address wasn't near downtown. It was in the complete opposite direction, and that's saying something since the pizza place was already pretty far out. It was supposed to take just over 25 minutes to get there, but it felt longer because of how empty the roads were. I'm kind of exaggerating, I guess. It's not like there weren't any houses, but they were a lot more spread out. When I finally reached the address, I realized I was pulling up behind the house. The GPS had taken me through this narrow road that ran behind the row of yards. There weren't any streetlights, and none of the houses had back porch lights either. It was pitch black. I slowed down and double-checked the address because the place looked completely lifeless. No lights inside, no cars, just a messy backyard with tall grass and a beat-up wooden fence that didn't even close all the way. Still, I followed the instructions. I parked on the gravel side area, grabbed the pizza, and walked up the little hill toward the house. I had the box in one hand and my flashlight in the other, pointing it at the ground so I didn't trip. When I reached the top, I saw the back door. It was one of those old white doors with a small glass window near the top and a cheap curtain covering it. I knocked and waited. No answer. I knocked again, thinking my manager would be pissed if I came back with the pizza. Still nothing. I was about to knock for a third time when I noticed something move. The curtain twitched. Just a tiny flick, like someone brushed it lightly. It happened so quickly I almost missed it, but I know I saw it. I stood there a few seconds longer, expecting the person behind the door to finally open it. But before they did, I saw two unmarked cars pull up behind my delivery car. My first thought was that I was about to get in trouble for being on someone's property. One of the car doors opened and a man stepped out. I could see him clearly from where I stood because the other car's headlights were shining. He waved for me to come over, and I thought maybe he was the guy who ordered the pizza and had just pulled in late. But as I got closer, I noticed he was holding up a badge. He was an undercover cop, not in uniform, just wearing regular clothes. When I got close enough, he told me to get back in the car and wait. That's it, nothing else. So I backed away slowly, got in the car, and waited. That's when I saw them. Not just two cops. There were at least five, maybe more. They all had flashlights but didn't say anything. They crept around the house silently, like they were trying not to be noticed. No one knocked. No one announced they were police. It was strange to watch. I saw one officer gently test the back door, the same one I had just knocked on. It didn't open. He gave a small nod to another cop and moved aside. It felt like I was seeing something I shouldn't be seeing. Eventually, the first officer came back to my car and crouched beside the window. I rolled it down and he looked over at the pizza box. He let out a short sigh. He didn't tell me much, but he didn't act like a jerk or anything. Just seemed like he was keeping it vague on purpose. He told me that the house was part of an ongoing investigation and that he and the other officers were watching it. He apologized for not stopping me sooner and said they were in the middle of moving their cars when I showed up. I asked if he wanted to see the order, and he said yes. I showed him the app. The order had a number, an address, and a first name, Jerry, but it didn't seem like it helped him much. He wrote down the number and told me to leave immediately. I told him my manager would flip if I came back with the pizza, but he just shrugged and told me again to go. Then he walked away. I was mad, but I had no choice, so I left. I didn't really understand how serious everything was until I got back to the shop. As soon as I stepped out of the car, it hit me. If the cops hadn't shown up when they did, something really bad might have happened. I don't even want to think about what. The more I replayed it, the more I realized that whoever was in that house probably saw the cops, and that's why they didn't answer the door. But why would someone in a house under surveillance order a pizza? Maybe they didn't know they were being watched. Or maybe they did. And I was being used to test something. Like maybe I was bait to see if the police were still nearby or had left. The twitching curtain, the silence, the weird timing, it's hard not to wonder. I know I'll never get a real answer, and honestly, it's probably better to stop thinking about it. I would have forgotten the whole thing if a high school friend hadn't brought it up last week. I didn't even remember it at first. I'm probably better off forgetting again, but I wanted to write it out and share it before I do. This happened just last year. I'm 40 now, married with two sons. One is 7 and the other is 5. I work in insurance, which is as boring as it sounds, but it pays the bills, and we live comfortably, which is what matters to me now. A couple of years ago, my dad passed away after a long illness with cancer. He left behind a small beach house in Delaware that I had never visited while he was alive since he rented it out all year. The house isn't anything fancy, but it's in a great location, just a block away from the boardwalk. My favorite part of it is the upstairs back deck with a really peaceful view of the ocean. Ever since he passed, we've been going down there every summer, sometimes just for a weekend, other times for a full week. It's become our family tradition. My wife and I love it, but the boys love it even more. They can spend all day running around on the beach, riding their bikes, and exploring the town. It feels like a special gift my dad left us to enjoy. What I'm about to share happened during one of those